Some new and very interesting information is coming out of the southwest island of Tonga and also the Honga-Tonga volcano, which is only 36 miles to the north, keeping the island extremely vulnerable to any other types of eruptions, which are apparently taking place. We've had reports of another pretty big eruption we're going to take a look at, setting off tsunami buoys near the island itself and Hawaii once again. Although communication with the island is still very, very limited, we do have some before and after pictures to take a look at, and it does not look good. My friends, I'm going to break down all the new information and concerns coming out of the South Pacific. We're breaking it all down right here, right now. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. It is January 17th, 2022, 12:31 p.m. And we're going to dive right into the new information coming out of Tonga after that massive underwater volcano at Honga-Tonga and quite literally seemed to wipe the island off the map. Now, we do have verification that that did not happen. There have been some major effects on the island of Tonga and surrounding areas. Very quickly, I want to look at the newest data, and that is the 2 tsunami buoys going off. So we've had a separate event. You can see right here, this little red dot took place just before we reached midnight of the 17th. Now, unfortunately, because it is still dark at Tonga right now, it's hard to find any satellite images that are actually showing this secondary eruption. Some are saying it's quite large. We could see another verification here. The reason that this red line is after the date of the 17th is because that's how much time it took for the secondary wave, which according to these buoys was generated. We'll go back to this one real quick. You can see the red activation mark is just before we reach the 17th, and then a few hours later, as it takes time for these waves to get to the next buoy, we see the second activation for Hawaii just after the 17th. But very quickly, I want to share some information with you for those of you that may not know. The eruption of the Honga-Tonga volcano on Saturday sent tsunami waves crashing across the shores in Tonga, and rising water levels were reported on the coastlines of Peru and the Pacific coast in the United States. Now, interesting enough, this volcano has gone through many different changes as far as the way it looks. You're looking at 2 different images here, one from January 7th, just days before the eruption, and then take a look at it on the 15th, apparently just 2 hours before the actual eruption took place. So in my opinion, anyone monitoring this volcano would have noticed these changes happening, especially if we're looking at only an 8-day difference between these 2 images. All right, I'm going to link these before and after pictures also. They were submitted by Josephine Latu Sanft on Twitter. I'll leave her handle as well. And Mary Greeley News actually just posted these pictures, so you're probably going to be seeing these circulating on the internet. Now, keep in mind, we have minimal contact with the island of Tonga and the surrounding areas, but you can see right here in this part of the picture, it shows you where this image is being taken, and you can clearly see just the overall color. It looks like it's just poisoned. It looks dull, things covered in ash. They have some little markings here for affected structures. We'll move to the next picture. You can see this one is a little bit to the east of the first picture on the northern end of the Tonga island. It looks like we're seeing a lot of flooding right here, water covering these areas. You compare it to this side, it looks, obviously this road is no longer visible. I'm assuming this was due to the tsunami waves. You can see the dates down here. This image was taken February 7th of 2020. And now, obviously, the updated image for yesterday, January 16th, 2022. Here is the third image in that set. Now, keep in mind, this image is on the southern end of the island, so more than likely did not get affected by the waves. We can still see the shoreline was very much affected on the south end. And again, just that overall color, it looks like an area that just got slammed with the ash and power of a volcano. I'm fairly certain we will be getting many more detailed images and videos out of this area once communication could be established. This is the 4th image that was put out by this Twitter user with the before and after images. Now, I mentioned before, I have some situations in the past, some other volcanoes that have taken place that sort of mimic this one. I gotta say, this is a very, very unique situation. Not many things have happened like this that humans can honestly say they've seen or experienced before. We do not see explosions like this. And before I get into that stuff, I just want to show you guys that we've had an earthquake of 1.0 that took place technically on the 16th. Now, this is said to be that secondary explosion, and the reason I say that is because if you look at the date here, it's the 16th, 1435 UTC, which is later on in the day. And if we come back over to the tsunami buoys, we could see that this buoy went into activation mode at that exact time. If you line it up, we're still in the 16th here, about 14 UTC. So this all lines up perfectly for that secondary explosion to have taken place, and then hours later, that vibration or wave even hit the tsunami buoys near Hawaii a few hours later, and that's represented right here by this chart. Now here is some very interesting information. I'm going to link this video of an interview being done by a volcano expert who goes on to explain that not only was this eruption so incredibly massive, but it was also very short-lived, so it packed a punch like no other. That's a quote from him directly. This is that video here, so if you see this man talking about the volcanoes, I highly recommend you watch it because he only had one comparison to this situation, and it just so happens to be the second largest volcanic eruption of the 20th century, only second to the 1912 eruption of the Navarupta volcano in Alaska. Now keep this information in mind, but this eruption was a very long and strong eruption in 1991 of Mount Pinatubo. Some of you may remember this eruption as it was just over 20 years ago now, but basically what this guy is saying is in the short time that Honga-Tonga erupted, which was about 10 to 12 minutes, believe it or not. The entire eruption we saw from space only lasted that long, but put out a similar amount of power and concussion as the 1991 eruption put out in the entire event, which lasted days. So just think about that for a second. That big punch and days of power and eruption coming out of a volcano all packed into a 10-minute eruption. That's how big this blast was in the South Pacific Ocean. Many people have been posting videos saying that this explosion from space looked very, very suspect, and many people are saying this could have been other things. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I do have an example that does look fairly similar. I'm not saying by any means this is the same thing or even near the same amount of power, but there was an eruption of the Reykjavik volcano near Japan and Russia, and you can see an image of it right down here from space. Basically the same technology we use to view the Honga-Tonga volcano, and we can see many similarities with the color, the sort of shape of the cloud moving up above. Of course, it's not exact, but I wanted to throw this in the video to just give people an idea that we have seen things sort of like this when it comes to volcanoes, especially the ones we can visualize from space, and maybe help some people understand that these things do happen, but under no circumstances am I saying that what happened at Honga-Tonga is normal, because it's not. In fact, that's one of the problems I see happening over time with these crazy events happening all over the world, is that we're becoming almost desensitized to stuff like this, when it should be the absolute most important thing we're talking about. Luckily enough, this has made its rounds all over the world and can't be ignored, so eyes will be all over this for the time being. I will continue to cover this as we get more and more information, especially once we establish contact with the island again. That seems to be an ongoing issue right now. But my friends, that's what I got for you for today. I hope you're all doing well. The Northeast got completely slammed with this snowstorm. I have a video coming out later with some images from Canada. You're not going to believe the amounts of snow that were dumped in such a short period of time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to Canada. Stay safe, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all, and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.